Let's talk about mystery, not in some dramatic, movie-style way where you're playing hard to get or pretending to be someone you're not. I'm talking about the kind of mystery that keeps someone leaning in, wanting to know more, instead of pulling back because they already think they've figured you out. Here's the thing, when you give everything about yourself away too soon, you leave no space for curiosity. And curiosity is what drives a man to miss you. Think about it. When you watch a great show, do you stay up all night watching episode after episode because the characters explain every single thing up front? No, you keep watching because there's something unanswered, something that makes you want to hit next episode. People are the same way. When you first meet someone, it's natural to want to share and connect. You're excited, you want them to know who you are, what you're about, and why you'd be such a great partner. But here's where most people go wrong. They turn the conversation into an information dump. Every detail of their childhood, every fear, every heartbreak, every future plan, all laid out on the table like a resume. And what happens is, you've given him the entire map before he's even asked for directions. There's nothing left to discover, nothing left to unfold slowly over time, and without that unfolding, there's no anticipation. Mystery isn't about hiding who you are, it's about pacing the reveal. It's about letting someone earn the deeper parts of you instead of serving them up on day one. When you keep a little bit back, your quirks, your stories, your passions, you create intrigue. You give him something to think about when you're not around. He remembers the way you laughed at a joke, but didn't explain why it hit you so hard. He recalls a glance you gave when a certain song played, and he wonders about the story behind it. Those little unanswered details make you live in his mind even when you're not in the room. Now, let me be clear, mystery doesn't mean being cold or distant. It's not about shutting someone out or playing games to keep them guessing. It's about balance. You can be warm, engaging, and present while still leaving room for curiosity. For example, instead of telling him your entire life story, you might share a piece of it, just enough to spark a question. Instead of explaining every detail of your day, you share a highlight and let the rest be something he imagines. That gap between what he knows and what he doesn't know, that's where missing you is born. Men, just like women, are wired to chase curiosity. We're drawn to the unknown, to the challenge of discovery. When you're an open book from the start, the story gets finished before it's even begun. But when you turn the pages slowly, when you reveal chapters one at a time, you give him a reason to keep showing up, to keep asking, to keep investing. And when you're not around, his mind doesn't rest. He's filling in the blanks, replaying moments, wondering what else there is to learn about you. That's how you plant yourself in his thoughts without lifting a finger. And here's the beauty of it. Mystery isn't something you create with effort. It's something you allow by simply being comfortable with yourself. It comes from knowing that you don't need to prove everything right away. You don't need to overshare or oversell. You can sit in your confidence, knowing that you are worth discovering piece by piece. When you do that, you shift the dynamic. He's not just spending time with you. He's investing energy wondering about you, missing the parts he doesn't yet have. So if you want to make him miss you like crazy, don't give it all away in one sitting. Let him wonder, let him lean in, let him discover you over time, because mystery, when done right, isn't about being secretive, it's about being unforgettable. Here's something most people don't realize. One of the fastest ways to make someone miss you is to respect your own space. When you collapse your entire world into another person's, you don't become more valuable, you become more predictable, and predictability doesn't leave much room for longing. Think about it. If every moment of your time, every ounce of your energy, every decision you make revolves around him, where's the opportunity for him to feel your absence? Where's the gap that creates desire? Missing someone happens in the spaces, not in the constant presence. When you keep your own space, you remind him that you have a life outside of him, and that life doesn't stop just because he walked in the door. That's not about being selfish or dismissive, it's about being whole. A woman who has her own passions, her own routines, her own circle, automatically commands more respect because she's not handing over her identity in exchange for attention. And when you don't hand over your identity, you create something powerful: contrast. Contrast between the time you spend together and the time you spend apart. That contrast is what makes your presence valuable and your absence felt. Now here's where a lot of people get tripped up. They confuse space with distance. Distance feels cold, like you're pulling away or punishing someone. Space, on the other hand, feels warm but independent. It says, I love spending time with you, but I also love spending time with myself, with my friends, with my goals. That balance is magnetic. It tells him you're not clinging to him for validation, and that you're not waiting by the phone for his call. You're living, and he gets the privilege of stepping into that life. And here's the truth. Men don't miss someone who's always available at the snap of a finger. They miss someone who has to be scheduled into their calendar because she's busy building something meaningful. They miss someone whose time feels like a gift, not an expectation. If he knows you're going to drop everything for him at any moment, there's no urgency, no anticipation. But if he knows that being with you requires intention, that it's special, then when you're not around, he feels it. He notices the gap. He misses it. Respecting your space also protects you, because when you center your whole world on one person, you risk losing yourself. And once you lose yourself, you start showing up with fear, with neediness, with pressure. That pressure pushes people away. On the flip side, when you stay grounded in who you are, when you maintain your hobbies, your friendships, your self-care, you bring an energy that is lighter, freer, more attractive. That energy isn't just good for you, it makes him want to come closer. And here's the paradox. The more you prioritize your space, the less you'll have to force someone to miss you, because it happens naturally. When you're not always available, when you have your own rhythm, when you're not looking to him for every ounce of joy, he starts to realize the difference between when you're around and when you're not. He doesn't take you for granted because he can't. You've set the tone. You're a whole person, not a half waiting to be completed. Missing you isn't about being absent. It's about being irreplaceable. And people who respect their own space, people who know their value and protect it, they don't have to beg to be missed. They simply are. There's a rhythm in every healthy relationship, and it's not constant closeness. It's a balance, a dance between leaning in and stepping back, and that's where real attraction grows. Too much push, and it feels like pressure. Too much pull, and it feels like neglect. But when you strike that balance, when you show interest without smothering, you create the space for someone to actually feel your presence and your absence in a meaningful way. Think about the times you've wanted something badly. The moment it became too available, too easy, the excitement faded. The same principle applies here. When you're always pushing forward, always calling, always texting, always trying to be in his space, he doesn't get a chance to feel the joy of wondering about you. But when you pull back too far, when you become cold or unavailable, he starts to feel disconnected, like you've already moved on. The magic is in the tension, the sweet spot where he feels close enough to know you care, but far enough to keep reaching. Now, that doesn't mean playing games. It's not about counting how many hours you wait before replying to a message or pretending you're too busy when you're not. That kind of strategy feels fake, and eventually it collapses. What I'm talking about is natural pacing, being intentional about giving and receiving. For example, if he makes an effort to reach out, you respond with warmth. If you've been spending a lot of time together, maybe you take a night to yourself to recharge. That subtle back and forth keeps the energy alive. It's not manipulation. It's self-respect mixed with awareness. Here's why this works. People crave what isn't guaranteed. When he knows you're invested but not desperate, he feels both secure and motivated. secure in knowing you're interested, but motivated because he doesn't want to lose that interest. That motivation fuels desire. It makes him think about you when you're not there. He wonders what you're doing, who you're with, what you're thinking about. That wondering, that's him missing you. Let's be honest. When someone is always available, it's easy to get comfortable, and comfort can slide into complacency. But when someone balances closeness with independence, they create appreciation. You don't appreciate what you can't lose. You appreciate what you notice missing. So when you're not always pushing in, when you know how to step back gracefully, you create that missing feeling in him without having to force it. It's like music. A song without pauses, without spaces between the notes, would just be noise. It's the balance between sound and silence that makes it beautiful. Relationships work the same way. Constant push with no pull is overwhelming. Constant pull with no push is discouraging. But that rhythm, that give and take, that's what makes someone lean forward, what makes them crave more. The truth is, people fall in love in the spaces between conversations, in the moments when they're apart, in the anticipation of what comes next. If you don't allow for that space, you rob the relationship of one of its most powerful elements, longing, and longing is the root of missing someone. So don't be afraid to pull back sometimes. Don't be afraid to let him come to you. Don't be afraid to let him wonder. When you master that balance, you don't just make him miss you. You make him appreciate you in ways he wouldn't if you were always right there. If you really want someone to miss you, you have to leave more behind than just your presence. You have to leave an emotional imprint. That's the part of you that lingers when you're not there, the feeling that sticks long after the conversation ends or the date is over. People don't replay facts in their heads, they replay feelings. They might forget the exact words you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel. And when those feelings are powerful, they'll crave them again, which means they'll crave you. Think about the moments in your own life that you still carry with you. Chances are, they're not the everyday, ordinary moments. They're the ones that made you laugh so hard you couldn't breathe. The ones that touched your heart so deeply you had to sit with it. The ones that surprised you or made you see something differently. Those moments stand out because they carry an emotional charge. They weren't just experiences, they were imprints. That's exactly what makes someone unforgettable. Now, when it comes to creating that kind of impact, it doesn't mean you need to force dramatic moments or put on a show. It's not about manufacturing intensity. It's about being intentional with the energy you bring. When you're fully present, when you listen deeply, when you laugh wholeheartedly, when you share something real instead of something shallow, that's when you create those imprints. You're giving him something to carry with him when you're gone, and the stronger that feeling, the more he'll miss you when it's not there. For example, let's say you're out together, and instead of just scrolling through your phone or giving one-word answers, you engage. You tell a story with animation, you make him laugh with your timing, you ask him a question that makes him think differently about himself. That moment isn't just another date, it's an experience, and experiences create memories. Later, when he's lying in bed or driving to work, he'll find himself replaying it. He'll feel that spark again, and with it comes the thought of you. That's the emotional imprint doing its work. The truth is, most people don't take the time to be memorable. They play it safe. They stay surface level. They go through the motions, and in doing so, they fade into the background. But when you dare to be more present, when you allow yourself to be authentic, when you bring a little extra warmth, a little extra humor, a little extra depth, you separate yourself from the rest. You become the story he tells, not just another conversation he forgets. And here's what's beautiful about this. Emotional imprints aren't one-sided. When you create them, you're not just making someone else miss you, you're enriching your own life. You're building connections that matter, you're cultivating joy, you're leaving your own mark on the world. That energy feeds you as much as it feeds the relationship. Missing you won't happen because you were simply there. It will happen because of what you left behind. And when what you leave behind is laughter, depth, joy, or inspiration, you don't have to ask anyone to think about you. They will, because they want to feel it again, and that is the kind of memory no one forgets. Scarcity is one of the most powerful forces in human behavior. It's wired into us. We place more value on what feels rare, what feels limited, what we can't always have at our fingertips. And the same principle applies to relationships. If you want someone to truly miss you, your presence can't feel like it's always guaranteed. When you make yourself constantly available, when you're always one call away, one text away, one step away, you remove the chance for someone to feel your absence. And without absence, there's nothing to miss. Think about it like this. If you had your favorite dessert every single day, at some point, it wouldn't feel special anymore. It wouldn't excite you. It wouldn't be a treat. It would just become routine. But when you only get it every once in a while, when it's not something you can count on all the time, you savor it. You look forward to it. You appreciate it more. Relationships work the same way. Your time, your attention, your energy, they are valuable. But they only feel valuable to him if you treat them as valuable yourself. Now, this doesn't mean you need to play hard to get or pretend you're too busy when you're not. That's not authenticity, and people can feel when you're faking it. What it does mean is you have to protect your availability. You have to learn to say no sometimes, not because you want to create distance, but because your life has balance. You have responsibilities, goals, passions, friends, and things you care about outside of him. When you prioritize those, it naturally creates scarcity. He doesn't get every second of you, and that's exactly why the time he does get feels significant. When someone knows you're not just sitting around waiting for their attention, it shifts how they view you. It says, I'm not desperate. I have a life. And if you want to be part of it, you need to bring something meaningful to the table. That subtle shift makes him work harder. It makes him more intentional. He can't take you for granted because he knows your presence isn't something he can snap his fingers and expect on demand. He starts to treasure it because it feels rare, and the rarer it feels, the more he misses it when it's not there. Scarcity also creates anticipation. When you're not always around, he has something to look forward to. He starts thinking about when he'll see you next, what you'll do together, how he'll feel in your company. That anticipation is powerful. It keeps you in his mind even when you're not with him. But if you're always present, always accessible, there's nothing to anticipate, because it's already right there. Missing someone is born out of the wait, out of the longing, out of the space between. Here's the key. Your time is your most valuable asset. Once you give it, you don't get it back, so treat it like it matters. Don't hand it out to anyone who doesn't appreciate it. Don't make yourself endlessly available just to keep someone close, because the truth is, being endlessly available doesn't keep people close. It pushes them away. They stop valuing what they no longer have to earn. So if you want him to miss you, don't flood his life with your constant presence. Step back enough for him to notice when you're gone. Let your time mean something. Let it be a gift, not a guarantee, because it's not in being always there that you're missed. It's in being not always there. This last one is the half tip, but don't let that fool you, because it's actually the most powerful of them all. It's the self-upgrade factor, and here's why it matters. Making someone miss you isn't really about what you do to them. It's about who you are becoming when you're not around them. Most people focus so much on strategies, little tricks, and calculated moves to make someone chase them. But the truth is, nothing is more magnetic than growth. When you're evolving, when you're leveling up, when you're building yourself, you naturally become unforgettable. Think about it. If every time he sees you, you're a little bit stronger, a little more confident, a little more aligned with who you want to be, that sticks in his mind. He starts to realize that even when you're not together, your life is moving forward. And that does two things. One, It makes him respect you because self-respect always shows. And 2, it makes him realize that if he's not around, someone else is eventually going to notice the glow up. That's not manipulation, that's reality. People are drawn to progress, and when you embody it, you don't have to ask to be missed. You just are. Upgrading yourself doesn't mean changing for someone else either. It means focusing on the parts of your life that make you proud. Maybe it's your health, maybe it's your career, maybe it's your confidence, maybe it's the way you carry yourself in a room. Every step you take in those areas builds energy. And energy is what people remember. You can walk into a room and say nothing, but if you've been investing in yourself, people will feel it. And when you walk out, they'll notice the void you leave behind. That's the kind of presence that lingers. There's another layer to this too. When you upgrade yourself, you stop needing to chase. You don't have to cling to anyone to feel worthy. And that shift, where you no longer depend on his attention to feel validated, is exactly what makes him crave your attention even more, because confidence is rare. A woman who doesn't need someone but chooses to share her life with them, that's unforgettable. That's someone you miss because you know her world doesn't stop without you. And let's be honest, nobody misses what feels stagnant. If you're always the same, always stuck, always waiting around, you blend into the background. But when you're constantly moving forward, constantly surprising people with your growth, you stand out. You become a moving target, and missing you becomes automatic because there's always more to see, more to discover, more to admire. So instead of asking, what can I do to make him miss me? Start asking, what can I do to make myself proud? Because the moment you focus on that, the answer takes care of itself. Missing you won't be a matter of tactics, it'll be a natural byproduct of the person you're becoming. At the end of the day, the secret isn't about being in his head. It's about being in your own lane. When you keep growing, when you keep shining, when you keep upgrading, you don't chase being missed, you embody it. And that's the half tip that changes everything.